Kandace Anderson, co-founder and CEO of Departmynt. Departmynt is an AI-driven, style and size-inclusive personal shopper for women. So the Departmynt app takes a style quiz along with data on the background and a wide product base to connect women with clothing that is a great fit for them. And I launched Departmynt and built it because I have a really, really busy day. I don't always have a lot of time to shop, but I care about what I wear. Like I want those special pieces. I just wasn't finding that I had the time to do it. And so I used the competition, some of which you may be very familiar with. And what I found is that the style wouldn't be right for me, or the cost wouldn't be right for me, or they just kind of wouldn't really get me as a user. I wouldn't feel heard or understood, and I would receive pieces that didn't work for me. And that was really frustrating. And as the years went on, that problem did not go away. So I decided to build it for myself. And in talking with my community, with other women, I really found that I wasn't the only person that needed this. And so that really told me that I was onto something. The question about finding co-founders, I'm sure, is loaded for anyone who's thinking about it. There's so many different things that went into how I determined who the best co-founder for me would be. The one thing that I really want to stress for anybody listening that I don't hear enough about personally is that you have really got to sharpen your intuition. Period. Like completely independent of finding your co-founder, you've got to get to a point where you can listen to that voice in your head that points you in one direction or another. That's something that I consider to be a skill that I've been honing for a long time, because when I went against my gut, it would always bite me in the butt, right? And even down to the small thing, like I would go to, let's say like I bought a necklace that like I maybe knew like, oh, this isn't in my budget this week, but I really love this necklace. I want to buy this necklace. Something told me not to buy it. I bought it anyway. This literally happened to me the first time that I wore it, it broke. And I was like, I got you, universe. Okay, so that was a no, right? So I kept having those experiences and decided I'm going to listen to that little voice in my head. And I've been doing that for years and years. And now that is the voice that guides me. So when I have to approach a really tough scenario or decision, I'm not coming off of ground zero. Like I have a pretty strong foundation. I would say that being the CEO also, and I know that's the right role for me based on my own skill set, being a jack of all trades, really loving pushing the business forward and kind of liking to see what people's skills are and putting them in a place that makes sense for their team. But I felt that a co-founder, even if they are a technical co-founder, which is what I needed the most, having a business background, not a tech background, a technical co-founder still needs to have an entrepreneurial spirit. Now, you don't necessarily have to be the one to want to lead the ship, but you do have to be someone who gets your thrills off of winning, off of growing, off of other companies that have seen that big growth, those unicorns. I need you to get excited about that. So what I found is that as I was talking to people just in general about Departmynt, I would learn a lot just about people who immediately resonated to it versus who didn't. So as I was talking to people in general, I would be like, okay, they're not super into it. It's fine. This person really gets it. Cool. And so you start to get to know who just has a natural interest in Departmynt. And that is number one, is like getting a feel for people who really just get what you're doing is really important. And then the second is really finding what you really need. I needed a technical co-founder. I'm building a tech-based company. I don't have a tech background. And I'm really passionate about not trying to be like put myself in leadership positions and things that I'm good at. If I'm not great at it, I leave it alone. I'm not going to spend time trying to do something that I'm only ever going to be okay at. And that was a hard decision for me. At a point, I was trying to learn coding and I was like, Kandace, let's be real. Do you want this to take 10 years or 20? Like, back it up, find some help. So that's the other thing, is know what you need. Both of my co-founders have way more experience than me in coding and full stack development and product management and user strategy. One of my co-founders I found just because she and I were both attending a class. We literally connected in the chat and just kind of communicated with each other offline about Departmynt, but just about life, about going through the pandemic. She's one of the first people that I touched base with after going full time on Departmynt. And as we stuck it out, and she helped me with the projects, and I saw her commitment, and I also knew that she had the entrepreneurial spirit as well. I'm like, oh man, like I feel like this is my person. And I would say I courted her because I asked her to be a co-founder once, and she was like, oh, I don't know, let's just kind of play it by ear. And I was like, girl, okay, sure. And I just like kept it in my back pocket. I was like, I'm coming back for Tara. Like, I really want her on my team. But I knew that she needed something from me, right? She needed to see me grow. This is before we had an MVP. I was just a girl with an idea. So I don't fault her for that. She was smart to do that, which I also liked, that she had some conviction of her own. And then for Layla, by the time I met up with Layla, I already had an app built. I had contracted to have it built. And I was reaching out to people saying like, how do you find your technical co-founder? And people would say like, don't just post the job posting. It needs to be a natural introduction. And I tried that for a while, but that wasn't really happening for me. And so I connected with some other people who said, oh, there's some other platforms out there where you can try to find your co-founder. So I posted on a bunch of platforms and started having some conversations. And again, what happened, like I would meet people who came out the gate finding out what I could do for them. They weren't necessarily passionate about Departmynt. They're people who had years of experience being like a CTO and was more focused on like, was I the right fit for them? I felt like I was being interviewed. I did not feel like we were interviewing each other, which I think is the more appropriate cadence. And so that wasn't right. Or I would meet somebody who was just looking to do something new and fun, but was not necessarily passionate about the retail tech space. And by the time I made it to Layla, who is my other co-founder, when we talked, she immediately got the problem. I think that's really important. We're a women-centric brand, so I focus very much on women making the important decisions, customer-facing decisions for my business. And so she immediately understood the problem that I was solving. She was ready to jump in immediately. She was very approachable, very professional. And again, when I was having that conversation with her, conversations over time, that voice in my head that told me not to listen or told me not to buy that necklace, and I bought it and it went to crap. That same voice was telling me, we like her. Let's have another conversation. And so as I continued to converse with her, I just felt right. And I still feel 100% right about that decision. And for anybody struggling with ownership and with like understanding or feeling comfortable about giving away ownership in your business, I think it really all comes down to what you want in the end. I'm building a business for an exit. That would be the number one, like my Michael Jordan championship moment. That's what I'm building. That's what I'm after. That's what I see the future of Departmynt being. I know that I can't do that alone. And I know that 100% of nothing is nothing. So at a point, you have to be willing to make that bet. And I felt like I was making a bet rooted in education and confidence and in strategy. And so I did it and I don't regret it. I have an amazing team. I am so grateful for these women who are on this ride for me. And I can't wait for us to do amazing things together. So when I think about blind spots as an entrepreneur, I kind of laugh. Like, I think that I run into a blind spot every day. What I would say is, one, I have been steeped in the business world for a long time because I just love it. Like my heroes, and I talk about this on my podcast and I'm just about to launch because it's honest to God truth. Like my heroes have always been titans of business. So I've always kind of been in that world. And I would listen to the podcast, How I Built This, years ago before I had the idea for a Departmynt. And I would just like take notes. I'd be like, wow, like even at the time I was a manager, I had a team. So there's still lots of things that you can learn from entrepreneurs as a manager of a team. So I'd take notes and like, oh, that was such a good point. So I'd be at work, working hard, podcast in my ear. I'd hear Sarah Blakely say something amazing. I'd stop, open my spreadsheet, make a note about strategy, and then get back to what I was doing. I think that as an entrepreneur, it really benefits you to have been steeped in this world for a minute, to have listened to people do things, make mistakes, talk about it so that you can be better. I think that that's really helped me with a lot of blind spots because I've anticipated the blind spots that other people have run into and tried to get in front of them before they became an issue for me. So that's why when I started Departmynt, I was really hard on myself about what was the goal of Departmynt, about being open to pivoting, about not getting stuck on building a perfect MVP. It wasn't because I just naturally understood those are the right things to do. It was because I had been listening to people much smarter than me talk about it. And I was trying really, really hard not to make avoidable mistakes. And I think that's something that can help you. You just got to be in it. Like, I like to think about, I use Michael Jordan because as a non-sports person, he's like the only athlete that I know that's done like amazing things, right? So I assume people understand that Michael Jordan was the best, and it's because he was in it every day. Like, even if you watch his documentary, he didn't go to the parties. I mean, he lived and breathed it. I live and breathe business all day, every day. I love it. I enjoy it. I listen to podcasts all the time. I read a million books. I talk to people. The people in my community and that understand me are other business-minded people. When you're always kind of in that world, things are easily overcome, or more easily to overcome, because you've kind of understood how other people do it. And I bring up Michael Jordan because I liken it to practicing. Me always kind of being in that space, reading and taking things in and making notes. That's the equivalent of Michael Jordan practicing every day, being coached every day, being in conditioning. I feel that I try really hard to condition myself to be an excellent business person. And that's probably how I deal with blind spots, is trying to get in front of them, but before they become blind spot. Obviously, it's kind of the antithesis of the blind spot, but there is a way, right? Like, many of the things that you run into, they're not new, they're just new to you. My confidence as an individual, as a CEO, as a mom, it comes down to the fact that I'm confident in my ability to solve problems, to approach a problem head on, get under it, and get to a solution. That's really, really important as a CEO, is that I'm not confident in that I know everything, because I don't. I'm not confident that I'm the most skilled in everything, because I'm not. I'm just confident in that I can solve a problem. And when you wake up with that confidence, when you try to hone that confidence, then those problems that you run into on a day-to-day feel less out of your reach. Like, it feels like something that I can solve. So I would say just kind of trying to hone that confidence in myself is what helps me with those blind spots as well.